Hi, Christy in the kitchen here. Thanks for joining me. My brand new Pampered Chef quick cooker just arrived, and so I'm wanting to try that out. And so tonight I am going to make a recipe from the spring summer season's best here, the quick cooker Thai coconut soup. I'm basing my recipe off of this. I'm making a few changes, and I'll explain those in a moment. But I'm looking forward to trying out my new quick cooker. I've used other electric pressure cookers before, but I've never used this Pampered Chef model, and so I'm really excited. It looks like it has a lot of great features and great accessories, and that's one of the things I'm changing here. Is I am going to cook rice at the same time, and to do so, I'm going to use the ceramic pot here, the quick cooker pot, along with the silicone lid and then some of the trivets to facilitate that. So I'll explain some of the changes I'm making to the recipe, but I'm using this as my guide. And hopefully it works out. It should. It's pretty simple. All right, so looking at the recipe, the first thing I need to do is I need to sear my mushrooms. And so the recipe tells you to slice them up, but I bought pre-sliced mushrooms. But anyway, we'll get this going. So I've opened the lid, and I believe I already have it set to, it's already on sear. And so to move through the different settings, you use the knob, but it's already on sear, and the time doesn't matter for this. So I'm not too worried. I'm going to press start, and it's going to begin to heat. The recipe calls for canola oil. I'm going to use coconut oil, but either should work, and it's about a tablespoon. So I'm going to let that melt and get hot, and then I will begin with the mushrooms. So I'm just going to let that heat up. It's beginning to heat up here. So let me go over some of the changes that I am making. So like I said, I'm cooking rice in the pot, and that's different. That deviates from the original recipe. The original recipe calls for fresh chicken thighs, but the time for the rice to cook is about, for me, it's about 12 minutes. And so the chicken would be overcooked in that amount of time. So I am using frozen chicken. I'm using frozen boneless, skinless chicken breasts. And that's because they're going to take about 12 minutes to cook, which works perfectly with the rice. I hope. I've never done this before, but it should work out. So I am, instead of the boneless, skinless chicken thighs, I'm using the breasts and they're frozen, and that's the big difference. So my soup's going to take a little longer to cook than the original recipe. All right, so my coconut oil is beginning to melt. I can go ahead and throw these in here. So if you didn't have pre-sliced mushrooms, you could use the quick slice, and that would make quick work of slicing up the mushrooms, but I grabbed these pre-sliced ones, so I don't need that today. Grab my mix and scraper. You also want to salt your mushrooms. You're going to want to make sure you get plenty of the moisture out as they cook, plus you need to season them. So I'm going to add some salt, maybe about a teaspoon. Right, and it's going to take a while for these, probably about 8 minutes for these to totally cook and release plenty of the liquid that they have naturally in them. You don't want that extra liquid in your soup. So we'll let those go, and I can prep my other vegetables. I'm going to be using my manual food processor. Okay. All right, so it wants me to start with the bell pepper, and I just need to slice this into chunks so that it'll fit in the processor. And then we also need our onion. So I have one large onion here. I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'll probably use about a little less than half. You can hear my mushrooms are well on their way to cooking. So I also am just going to sort of roughly chop this so that I can get it in my manual food processor. And this manual food processor is nice because it has a gasket or a rim here on the bottom, so it keeps it from moving around and keeps it nice and secure on your worktop. So I might have filled this up too much. Let's see. beginning to go. I did kind of pack it full. Okay, I'll give this a stir too. Smells good. All right, so this is ready to go for the next step. Let me just go over a few of the other substitutions or changes. So in addition to using frozen chicken breasts instead of the fresh thighs, and besides the coconut oil instead of the canola oil, I've decided to use, I have pre-minced ginger, and this is just available in the refrigerated section at the grocery store. I also decided to add some lemongrass to give it even more that classic Thai flavor. So this is the same thing, sold in the produce section, it's refrigerated. I'm going to use a little bit of fish sauce, and it's just like it sounds. It's fishy, but it gives it a nice flavor. It's a traditional Thai flavor here, ingredient commonly used, gives a nice umami flavor. It's salty and a little bit fishy, and I'm only going to use a little bit. So be careful when you use it. It is strong, but it is important. It really gives a good flavor. And then I'm also going to use some curry paste. This is green curry. You could use red or yellow, whatever you have. So those are just a few of the other things I'll be doing, and I'll mention when I get to those. Okay, so I'm just transferring the pepper and onion mixture that I've chopped up in my manual food processor. I'm putting that into a bowl so I can process the jalapeno real quick. So just be careful when you are transferring that you keep a hand on the blade here so that it doesn't fall out as you're moving your ingredients, okay? So I'm going to work on the jalapeno, and then pretty soon I'll be adding everything to the pot. So, all right, so I just processed the jalapeno in the manual food processor, and this time I did it quite finely because I didn't want any big chunks of jalapeno. And I only used about half because my kids will be eating dinner, and I didn't want to make it too spicy. So I've got that, and I'm ready to add it all to the quick cooker. It's on the sear setting. I turned it off because it was getting too far ahead of me and I didn't want it to scorch, but I'll go ahead and turn that back on. And I'm adding the pepper and the onion. As well as the jalapeno mixture that I just processed. So that's in there. I'll give that a stir in a moment. It says about 3 to 4 minutes until softened. So that's what that will take. And then you'll be adding your chicken broth. But the few changes that I'm going to make, I'll be adding the curry paste, my ginger, lemongrass, and then I also have some garlic that I want to mince. So I'll be trying out my new Pampered Chef garlic press, which I've heard great things about. So I'm excited to give that a try. So I'll let this go for 3 to 4 minutes, and then I should be ready to add my other ingredients. So I have about another minute or two for the peppers and onions to cook down. While I'm waiting for that, I thought I'd go ahead and get my rice ready to go because I'll be putting that in once everything else is added. So I've got my ceramic quick cooker pot, and to that I'm going to add the rice. I'm using jasmine rice, long grain white rice. I have about 1.25 cups. That's all I had left. So normally I would have done about 2 cups. So I've got that, and I'm going to add the water. Now, for electric pressure cooker, typically when cooking rice in one of these, you use a 1-to-1 ratio, which is different than if you were cooking rice on the stovetop. So you just want to keep that in mind, and I found 1-to-1 to work where I'm at, but it might be different in your experience. I'm at a little bit of a higher elevation here, so I think it takes me a little longer in terms of cooking time, but I think the water would be the same. So I've got 1.25 cups of water that I will add to the rice, and then a little bit of salt. And I'm going to go ahead and put the silicone lid on, which is really nice. I like this. I haven't done the pot-in-pot cooking before because I never had the accessories for it to work. But this should work really well. It was designed just for this purpose. So that's softened. I'm going to add a few other things. This is where I'm deviating from the recipe as well. So I'm going to add some ginger, maybe about a teaspoon or so. And then I will add about a teaspoon of lemongrass, maybe half a teaspoon. Going to give that a stir. Being careful of the steam that's coming out. One thing that is really nice, another nice thing about this, is that it's cool to the touch. Some of the other electric pressure cookers you could not touch the sides of, but this is nicely insulated, so you don't have to worry about burning yourself. So that's great. So I've added the ginger and the lemongrass, and I'm going to now add my minced garlic. So I've got a couple cloves of garlic, here it is, floating around, that I'm going to go ahead and mince. And you don't have to peel the garlic, which is great. So I won't have garlic smelling hands. I can just drop these cloves. I've got about 2. I'm going to use my little handy device and press this directly into the pot. I might need 2 hands. And this handy little scraper is the perfect thing. There we go. Smells really good with all those aromatics. And now I am about to add the curry paste. And the other thing that I need to have ready to go here is my chicken stock. So you need a cup and a half. And so I'm going to measure that out. So that is ready to go. I'm going to add the paste. I'm going to do about half a teaspoon because again my kids will be having dinner with me as well. And if it's too spicy, they won't go for it. So just a little bit. I'll let that cook for just about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to deglaze the pan with the chicken stock that I measured out. There's a lot of really flavorful fond. You can't see down there right now with the camera, but I can see it, and I want to make sure I get all that flavor, and then I also don't have any of that fond stuck on the bottom of the pan. Sometimes that'll render an error message as you cook if it's on there, but I'll be sure to take care of that with the chicken stock. I'm going to pour that, really stir. Wooden spoon would be great to use, but this will work. My mix and scraper will work. Okay, so I am measuring out 2 tablespoons of soy sauce here. Remember, you don't want to measure over your mixing bowl, or in this case, a quick cooker, as I wouldn't want to mess that up if I mismeasured. So there's that. All right, so that's the soy sauce. And now for the fish sauce, which I warned you about. Just a little bit. I'm only going to use a 1/4 teaspoon because it's kind of strong for my taste, but it is important, I do think, for the recipe. So I'm just going to measure out. It comes out, has a little dropper. All right, so I'm going to give everything a stir, and then I'm going to add my chicken. I'm going to nestle my chicken down in there. I've got 2 boneless, skinless, frozen chicken breasts that I'll just be placing in here. Now I need to do a few other things so I can have my rice in there too. So I'm going to be placing this trivet down on top. Okay. So there's that. And then I have, this is sort of the holder for the ceramic quick cooker pot. So I'm going to place a pot in this little holder. and then I can drop it down like so, and then the handles there just fold right on top. So that's ready to go, and I have my lid here. So I'm just going to place this, and I'm going to hit cancel. Oops. Cancel, and now I need to change the setting because if you'll notice it was on the sear setting. I need to put it over on soup. So to change the setting, there we go. I want to move it over to soup stock, and the cook time I want it to be 12 minutes. So I'm going to move down from the default setting. So 12 and start. You also want to make sure you have it on the sealed settings so that it's not venting. It's another great feature of this is how well designed the lid was. That's one of the issues with the other electric pressure cookers, but this one's great, and so it is locked. It hasn't come to pressure yet, but I do have it sealed. So it should come up to pressure pretty soon, especially since it was already quite hot in there. So I've got 12 minutes for this to get going, and I'm going to clean up, and I'll see you in 12 minutes. All right, so time is up. It's time to release the pressure on the quick cooker, and we are doing the manual release. And all you have to do for that is press this little button and hold it down. There we go. So the pressure has all been released. The red little button has dropped down, and I'm able to remove the lid now. So I'm going to do that. Again, careful, there's still going to be some steam, so you want to make sure your face or your body is not right on top of the quick cooker there. All right. Now, like I said, I need these oven mitts to retrieve the ceramic insert that I have, because this will be hot as well. So now I need to take the chicken out, and I'm going to shred that using my salad choppers, but I have another rack I need to remove. So I'm just going to use my tongs to take this, remove it, and now I can get the chicken. Now if you'll remember, this was, these are chicken breasts, boneless, skinless, and they were frozen. And so in 12 minutes, they have cooked. But I want to shred them. And so that'll let that sit, and then I'm going to use my salad choppers. Now it's time to get chopping. These are really nice. So they're called salad choppers, but as you can see, they cut more than just salad and leafy greens. So these make quick work. I'm just taking out any of those bits that I don't want. And I'm going to cut this up fairly small because I only have 2 breasts, and so I want to make sure that there's plenty of it in the soup. Just remove that. Alright, so I don't know if you can see, but I've chopped that up into nice little bits there. So I'm going to add this back into the quick cooker pot, stainless steel pot. Alright. Now we need to temper the coconut milk. Shh, don't mind my dog. So we don't want to put the coconut milk into the very hot soup right now. Okay, so we're going to temper that coconut milk here. So I'm going to use the same bowl that I chopped the chicken in because it really doesn't matter. But this in here. And this is full fat coconut milk. 2 cans is what the recipe calls for. Smells coconutty. Right. So I'm just going to, actually let me get a whisk. Just going to whisk that a bit, get it going. All right, so we're just going to add a little bit of this hot broth from the soup in at a time to gradually warm up this before we add it in. All right. So. All right, so I've added a few spoonfuls of the hot chicken or the hot soup mixture into the coconut milk tempered, and I think it's warm enough now, so I'm going to add this entire mixture into the stainless steel pot of the quick cooker. And the batter bowl makes really nice work of that with its spout and handle. It's one of my favorite products. Stir this in nicely, and now it is time to juice my lime. I'm not trying to rhyme either. Okay, so I've got one lime that looks nice and juicy, and I've got my wonderful citrus press. I didn't know how much I needed a citrus press until I got one. This thing is fabulous. In addition to the batter bowl, this is also one of my must-haves. So I'm going to cut my lime in half. Place it into my citrus press and press. We want to add the lime juice at the end here. We wouldn't want to cook with the lime. That would sort of cook out the flavor from it. It's really nice and bright to add this at the end. Gives it a nice flavor. All right, and don't mind the kids outside. My kids are busy playing hide and seek with all the neighbors. So it's loud. All right. This looks great. I'm going to add a little bit of that cilantro that the recipe called for as a garnish. Don't mind me off camera. Like that. And lastly, I just want to check on my rice. So I'm going to remove the silicone lid. There's a little bit of water pooled on the top, so just try not to make a mess of it. And I have to say, it actually looks really good. I wasn't sure what would happen if it would be cooked or not. I don't know. With a fork. Yeah, and the rice looks perfect. So I am ready to dish up. So I'm ready to dish up. I'm going to serve mine over the rice that I cooked. So I'm going to place some of that in my bowl. And then a little more garnish. And I'm done. Looks delicious. Let's try it. Good.